April soup time. Hi everyone, I'm Samantha. This is the channel Trying to Get By, and you are here for the video April soups. We have done March soups, we are now into April soups, so we have 4 more soups, all of which I have never made before. So let's take a look and see what we made this month. Soup number 1 for April, parsnip and apple soup. There has to be an onion in there somewhere because nearly every soup starts with an onion. I'll probably throw a little bit of garlic powder in there as well in lieu of garlic because I'm still on the hunt for a good priced garlic paste. So that's going to be easy to do. We are just going to peel and chop, peel and chop, peel and chop. Cook the onion off first, everything else in a pan, and then we're going to add some flavourings. To go with the soup, I'm going to need a vegetable stock, and my vegetable bags in the freezer are full. This is just scraps and peelings and ends and bits and bobs. I've thrown a few bay leaves from the bay tree in the garden, and I'm just going to cover this with about 3 cups of water, which is about 3/4 of a kettle. Pour all that in. I'm going to put this on pressure cook for about 20 minutes. And do a natural release. So that's because I'm lazy. Natural release basically means I don't have to come in and mess around turning the valve and all those kind of things. And I'm just going to leave that to do its thing. Sorted. And I'm going to go back over here. Onions are sautéing. Once they have cooked very slightly, I'm going to pop in the chopped apple and the parsnip, and then because I've got to wait for my stock, I'm just going to turn it off for then. It's just prepped and ready, just waiting for the stock, and then we're going to continue cooking. Right, all I'm going to do while I'm waiting for the stock is just put in a little bit of water from my squeezy bottle, and that's just going to create some steam. I'm going to turn the heat off. This is going to start the cooking process very slightly. Now, you won't need to do this because I'm sure you'll have your stock ready, unlike me who didn't think ahead of themselves. So I'm just going to pop my lid on and leave it. And if you're wondering why my hands are like that, it's because I've just grated a heck of a ton of beetroot. So no, I've not done any damage to anybody or myself. It's beetroot. So there's my stock out of my pressure cooker. All as I did was used a sieve to scoop out the remnants. I will show you. They're just all in there. Put them in a recycling bag. That's just going to go all into the compost. All be reused again for compost. But the stock that I've got is going to go in here. So just enough to just about cover, which is about half a litre. Because I've got a good litre of stock there. The rest of that stock I'm just going to cool down, and it is going to be stored away. You can store it in the freezer, you can store it in an ice cube tray, or just put it in little Tupperwares. I'm going to pop the lid on this now and cook it on medium for about 20 minutes until the parsnips are tender, and then I'm just going to puree it to make a nice pureed soup. Oh, that lid's hot. Right, carefully, quickly. There is our soup that's been cooking for about 20 minutes. I have just given things a bit of a squeeze just to see how they are. Let's just check. Obviously, the apple will be well and truly soft. The parsnip is a little tougher, but still should be okay enough to give it a blend, especially with this stick blender. So we're going to go in with the blender, and then we're going to give it a taste. Helps if you turn the blender on. Right, that's lovely and blended up. Because my stock was obviously a dark stock, that's why this is a darker colour. If you did it with a lighter stock and a stock cube, you would get a lighter colour soup. I'm just going to give this a try. This has not had any salt or pepper in it or anything like that yet. Oh, that's lovely. I don't think I've ever had a soup that's had apple in it before. And you can taste the apple and it's not weird. I'm just going to put a bit of salt in there. And definitely a few cracks of the old pepper. If you wanted to make this slightly creamier, you could pour a bit of milk in there as well. But this will do as nicely. Or the other thing that you could do is you could add a little bit of spice to the soup. Let me just find a spoon to mix. Yeah, you could add a little bit of spice. So a little bit of cumin or something like that and make it a spicy parsnip soup, which would also be very delicious. Let's have another little taste. Yeah, definitely needed the salt and pepper, but that is a really good soup. Have a try. This is going to be a pretty simple soup recipe. We've got lentils, we've got onion, we've got tomato puree, we've got cumin, we've got carrots. Lots of carrots. No, don't worry, I'm not putting all of these in there. I have used some carrots to make some carrot dogs. I have used some carrots to make a cheese sauce. I have used some carrots to make a coleslaw. These carrots are going to go in the soup, and the rest of the carrots are just going to get chopped and grated, and I'm going to store them in the freezer just to kind of add a bit of nutritional bump to some other recipes. So back to this recipe. Basic idea is I'm going to chop some onion, dice up some garlic, got some tomato puree, cumin, lentils, and we are going to dump in a load of carrot and make ourselves a slightly spiced lentil and carrot soup. So in the pan I've got the teensiest little bit of oil and the tomato puree, which I'm just cooking off a little bit. I'm going to go in next with the onions and the garlic, although I'll probably end up throwing a bit of carrot in as well because I did not separate it very well on the board, but never mind, it's all going to go in the end. There we go. Just coat that with the tomato puree. Cook it for a minute or so. In the meantime, I'm going to go in with some cumin. For this amount, I'm going to go in with about a teaspoon of cumin. Now, in terms of proportions of carrots to lentils, you want maybe a quarter of the amount of lentils to whatever carrots you've got. So I'm thinking I've got maybe 7 handfuls of carrots there. So I'm going to go in with just shy of 2 handfuls of lentils, and that should be enough for us. I do have a stock cube for this as well. I'm not going to go in with my bouillon powder because there's too many other flavours in there, and I don't particularly want like loads of different flavours. I want to focus on the flavour of the carrot and the cumin and the richness of the lentils, so that's going to go in there. So that's just a basic stock cube. There we go. That'll do. I'm not messing around today with letting everything simmer and all that, because I just want to crack on and get this cooking. Now if you wanted to create a deeper onion flavour, you could do, but the onions are going to cook in the stock anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. So I'm a renegade cook. That's what that's what I'm calling myself today, the renegade cook. Maybe I should have started a different channel and just blown all the rules out of the water. Anyway, back to some sensibleness. So I've gone in with my carrots. I'm now going to go in with a whole load of lentils. That's 1, 2, although I'm spilling some all over the counter because I'm trying to do it one-handed because I'm holding my camera, and a little bit more. Just for good luck. Good protein source lentils. So, being a veggie, I need my protein from my peas, beans and lentils. So we're going to go in with just enough to cover everything. I'm going to pop the lid on, bring this to a boil, and then take it down to a simmer, and we're going to simmer it on low for about 30 minutes. Keep an eye on it, make sure that you keep the water topped up if you need to, and then we'll have a look at it in 30 minutes and see if the carrots are nice and soft. So all the rest of that carrot I have just grated, and what I'm going to do with my half cup measure, which has no handle but is still perfectly usable, I'm going to pack in half a cup of carrot, give it a good squish because I want it to stay moulded, and I'm making little half cup mounds. These then on this tray are going to go into the freezer. I'm making sandcastles, and then once they're frozen I can put them in a freezer bag, and then I've got half cup portions of grated carrot to go in all sorts of different recipes where I just want to add that nutritional bump. And I can imagine I could possibly even use it for carrot cake and things like that. I'd probably just need to drain the carrot off slightly, pat it dry so it's not too wet once it has defrosted. But this is what I'm going to do with the leftovers of all the rest of this carrot. All we've got to do now with this soup is blend it. You can see it is all nicely broken down. The carrots are nice and tender. They're not like mush soft though, but they're soft enough that the hand blender will be able to do them. You could also put them in your food processor, whatever you have got. I'm just going to stick blend these, and then we're going to decide if we need to add any more liquid and what other seasonings we need. Okay, quick taste, nice and smooth. See what we need. Pinch of salt. It's always salt. I'm not going to put any pepper in. For me, there's enough. Chris will probably throw a load of pepper in. He likes his pepper. But for me, I'll just give that a quick. For me, there is enough. I'm not going to double dip. This is what you can do, is you can use a clean one and dump it on the spoon that you used. And then you can use it multiple times. Oh yeah, salt was needed, really nice. But actually, considering it's got the lentils in, you'd think that I'd give it a lot of body, but it's quite a light soup. If you wanted to thin it down very slightly, you could add a little bit more water, a little bit more stock, or some milk, or some coconut milk, depending on what you fancied and what you've got in. I've got actually a little bit of silken tofu in the fridge that could be used if we fancy it. But there you go, there is our carrot and lentil soup, which tastes really yum and is really, really nutritious. Gonna make broccoli and Stilton soup. The broccoli I have recently been given, so that's for nothing. This cheese is not a Stilton, it's a Castillo Danish Blue, so I'm not sure how strong this is. I will just have a little taste of it before I pop it in. That I got free in an oleo round about Christmas time, so as part of my freezer reduction, that needs using up. Obviously going to add an onion to this, going to add a potato to thicken it up as well. I've got one of my packs of stock out of the freezer. I've just got it in the Instant Pot on saute, just so that that will cook down relatively quickly, so it will melt and everything. So I'm just going to leave that to do its thing while I am chopping up the rest of the ingredients. Now with the broccoli, I'm only going to trim off this little bit here that's not looking so healthy, and that little bit at the bottom. Those are going to go, but it's barely anything, because even though these stalks are really chunky, all I'm going to do is chop them down small, and a lot of this is going to get pureed anyway, so you're not even going to notice. So first thing I'm going to do is just go in and chop the heads off like that. Just go around with your knife till I've chopped the heads off, That's done. Move that to the side. Leaves, yeah, they're going in as well. So I'm just going to chop those off, put them to the side. And the rest of this, I'm just going to chop into chunks. So down a couple of ways, down a couple more, and chunked up. So those will cook down really quite easily. I generally do this with cauliflower and broccoli anyway. I don't waste any of that because it is just as tasty as the rest. So that's going to all be chopped up and going in with the stock. The potato I'm just going to chop into chunks. Again, this is not to add flavour as such, it's just to be the thickener. So again, just rough chunks because that'll cook down really quickly as well. And again, onion just going to be into chunks along with the rest of everything. So let's just get this last bit of potato, pop that to the side. I'll show you what I'm going to do with the onion. So tops, bottoms in half, and all this skin and anything that's left over from this is going to go into my stock bag. So I've got one of my stock bag freezer stocks in there, which are really great to use up all the rest of this stuff that you get from the edges of your veggies. So that's that, and all I'm going to do with this is just go into slices that way, and when it starts to feel a bit weird, tip it. Done. So I'm going to finish chopping all this up, and hopefully that stock will be melted in a few moments and we can get it all in. I've managed to get my stock up to a nice rolling boil, and literally all I'm going to do now is bung all the ingredients in. So there's quite a lot here. This is going to make a good hearty soup. So this is all the onions, potatoes, and all the broccoli, like I say, even including the leaves as well. So every last bit in, scraping the plate and the tray. Right, now for the blue cheese. Let's have a look at this. Needs a knife to get in there. Oh, I just knocked the kettle on. That's why you can hear a funny noise. So this blue cheese is, let's say it's a Castillo Danish Blue. Let's have a quick. That's not knock your head off cheese. So we're going to go in with half of this. It's nice and crumbly. See, literally just disappeared in crumbles. Probably because it's been frozen. So I'm just going to use a broccoli, a broccoli head to wipe my fingers. Give my hands a bit of a wash. Yeah, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook this in slow cooker on low for about 6 hours. You could do it high for 4 hours. And no, actually, I'm going to do it on high for 4 hours. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to blend it, taste it, and see if any extra blue cheese needs adding. Because I don't want to overpower it too soon. So in we go. So as usual, lid goes on. And we are slow cooking on high for 4 hours. There's the beeps. So I've just done a last burst of release. This has been the 4 hours. Ooh, there we go. That is looking amazing. So obviously this now needs blending, because you don't tend to have this kind of soup chunky. So we're going to go in with the hand blender and go for it and see how it comes out. So I've blended this up. Now it's still very thick. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to add a little bit more liquid to this. That could be just a little bit more water, a little bit of milk, some more stock, but I want to taste it first just to get this, decide whether or not this cheesiness is cheesy enough. Now for me, I could add more. For Chris, I don't think he'd be happy adding too much more to that. So what I'm thinking of doing is I will serve Chris up his bowl, I will serve me up my bowl, and I will crumble a little bit of extra cheese on the top for me, and that will work. Oh, this is good. Now, I wouldn't recommend, now I know some of you have seen in the past that I do can some of my soups. I wouldn't recommend canning this one because it apparently broccoli can go a bit funky smelling. So anything that's left over is either going to be eaten in the next couple of days or I would freeze it. This soup's going to be a lot lighter than other soups. This is a wild garlic soup. So I've got some wild garlic that I've been out foraging and collecting. I have got a video about wild garlic as well. I will tag that at the bottom in the description box. We're going to add a little bit of nutritional yeast and some lemon, some onion, basil, oregano, and in here I've got some cashews, about 40 grams of cashews, just soaking in some hot water that I'm going to blend. That's going to be our thickener. If you are not keen on using the cashews, you could use a potato instead. I've also got a stock cube. This is just a just a standard stock cube because I don't want anything to overpower this. If you want it more hearty, I would recommend using potato because it is going to be quite a light, gentle soup. Otherwise, first thing I'm going to start doing is I'm going to saute the onions in a pan in the tiniest little bit of oil until they are softened. These onions have softened down. I did add a little splash of water to them to help them carry on cooking so they didn't burn. I'm going to go in with the garlic, which I've just chopped up slightly just to make it easier to fit in the pan. Then I've blended up my cashews, give them a good 20 minutes to blend nicely. I'm going to bung in my stock cube with that. I'm just going to crumble it up and top it up till it is about 400 mils of liquid. I'm going to pop that in, just give that a bit of a mix. There we go, pop that in. There we go. Now, if any of your cashews have not completely blended, don't worry about it because we're going to blend this soup again anyway. I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of nutritional yeast, a little sprinkle of basil, probably about half a teaspoon because I don't want to overwhelm the onion flavour, the garlic flavour, a little bit of oregano, again maybe quarter teaspoon of that, and a nice hit of lemon which will just give it some brightness. So this is half a lemon. I'd already taken the zest off this. These are just lurking in my fridge while waiting to be used up. So that's in there. Give this a little mix. I'm going to bring it to a very gentle boil. I don't want to harshly cook this because I feel as though it will just not make the flavour as nice. So I'm just about going to bring it to a boil and then I'm going to turn it down to a simmer. So this garlicky soup is nice and cooked long enough. It went up to the boil and then I reduced it to the simmer for about 10 minutes. So I'm just going to puree it now and see how it turns out. Look how, I don't know if you can see from this angle how lush and green that looks. You're not going to be able to puree this wild garlic down to a full smooth unless you have a high powered blender, which would do it, but this looks really nice. Let's have a taste. As I said before, a really delicately flavoured soup. So nice and lovely. If you want it thicker or want it creamier, potato, maybe some coconut milk or some cream or something like that in there. But for me, that is yummy, and I am really happy to eat some of that. So we well and truly utilised some free products that we got there in our soups and some low cost things. So let's go through each one. Parsnip and apple, really nice. Would probably make again. I'd probably give it a good 7 out of 10. Carrot and lentil, delicious, a good 9 out of 10. Definitely will be one we will be reusing many times over. It's a really good soup recipe, really hearty, and doesn't feel too heavy on the stomach, and also keeps you full for a good long time. Next one, broccoli and Stilton. Ooh, I've got another block of that. Well, it wasn't Stilton, was it? It was whatever blue. I can't remember the cheese it was, but I've got another block of that blue cheese in the freezer, so that's going to have to be used up pretty soon. So I think I probably will be making that one again, or I might use the Stilton and make some kind of Stilton blue cheese. Stop saying Stilton. Blue cheese sauce to go with a different meal. We'll have to see. Lastly, the wild garlic soup. Really tasty and a great way to utilise a foraged resource. I really enjoy going out and collecting wild garlic. If you haven't seen the wild garlic video that I made, it was a couple of videos ago, so take a look at that and let me know what you think. So please add to my list of soups I need to try over the forthcoming months. Remember, this is a year of soup, so we have 10 more months to go before we complete the year. So we are 8 soups down and quite a few to go. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.